I'm GB, the director and producer of Wu, the story of the Wu Tang Clan, a documentary that kind of chronicles the rise, fall, and rebirth of the Wu Tang. I knew them from back in the day. I remember coming home from college and Method Man would be hanging out, sitting in my car, and he worked at the Statue of Liberty with my brother. Most people from Staten Island all knew each other. Original, which is Capadonna, was one of the tightest rappers on Staten Island, so most people were influenced by him in terms of style, and he was supposed to be the one. And a lot of these guys, I never knew that Raekwon had rhyming skills until I really knew, because he and I, we were in 8th grade together or something like that. So it was one of those things where everyone knew each other and the connection was there. They didn't know that I was going to become a filmmaker, and I never knew that they were going to be rappers. I mean, the only person that I knew, it was RZA at the time. I was in school when I heard Protect Your Neck for the first time. And I ended up saying, well, these are the guys from my neighborhood? Wow. You know, so I kind of became a fan of theirs, even though we were boys. He called me up and was like, yo, we need to do this video. Got an ARRI camera. We went out and shot a Super 16, a regular 16 millimeter, against the Staten Island Ferry backdrop. That's my really first time seeing how raw the group was. So within a very little time, I saw things just shift from us struggling doing these little low-budget videos, and they became a super group. And that was one of the most amazing things, because it was almost prophetic. Those guys sat down. I mean, I got some footage of RZA sitting back in the studio and saying, okay, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. And that's one of the most amazing things when you look back 15 years after most of those things dropped. I looked at it, I said, these guys already knew it was gonna happen. They spoke it into being. So that's what made the story even more interesting, because they believed.
I go with all types of shapes and sounds, and where I lounge is my stomping grounds. I give an order to my peeps across the water to go and snatch up props all around the border.
What RZA ended up doing was taking all of the elements that most New Yorkers were aware of. We all came from the hip-hop era of it being raw. Then you took the martial arts elements and you combine those two. Everyone loves the alter ego, and that's sort of what ended up happening. These guys stepped in almost like superheroes, and they had sort of their characteristics. I remember when I first started filming Wu-Tang, I couldn't show Ghost's face. That was something they were like, whatever you do, you cannot show this guy's face. I'm like, okay, what's happening? So it's one of those things where between Ghost, RZA, and the way he spelled his name and the way Jizza spelled his name, ODB's style was just totally different, and his whole demeanor was this drunken sort of. So it just brought you back into that world where you felt, wow, it's like watching, you know, the 5 Deadly Venoms, and you got the Toad, and you got this guy. So it was really sort of a hip-hop version of that entire sort of underculture that was going on in New York with the martial arts and so on. So they had sort of this thing that just sliced through the color barrier, and it appealed to a lot of people because, like I said, they introduced characters, and you fell in love with ODB because even though he would come on the record just for a little bit and then disappear, but you're like, yo, this guy's amazing, or Ghostface Killer, wearing the mask on stage maybe for the first 6 months of them being around, and then all of a sudden taking it off, and then people seeing who he was more and more. I thought that made it really amazing, and the fact that you had Method Man, who was this handsome kid, sort of really just excited. He brought this excitement, which if you still see him perform now, he still does that. He's this big kid that entertains the crowd. And then you have the rest of the guys that just sort of layered it with knowledge. They had skills. Wu-Tang, I mean, when you go back and listen to the lyrics that it was skills without really gimmick. They sat down and wrote lyrics that you had to like rewind it and 3 or 4 times to get it. You know, one of the crazy things is like Jizza, he's not the most flamboyant member of the group, but when you listen to the stuff he drops, I remember his verse in Protect Your Neck, you know, short arm, deep pocket, you know, bring out the mud, you know, that type of stuff. I just thought that it was amazing. They embodied the elements of what hip hop was, and they took it back to the elements, meaning they embraced the old school style of stuff that they were doing. It went back to literally rhyming and not being gimmicky and coming up with hooks. Each member are like their own persons. As the group, they become something bigger because Wu-Tang becomes like one person in a sense. Like they always mention Voltron. RZA has always been really focused in terms of being able to see things way ahead. Even working on this film, he was able to predict stuff ahead of time. So he's always been like the visionary, and he's served as the big brother of the group. And a lot of people, you know, it's my first time seeing some hardcore gangster dudes really listening to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Ghostface sort of is that really smart criminal in a sense, you know. So he has like this, what they call an intelligent hoodlum, you would say. He has like that sort of feel, and basically brings it in such a way that is, when every time you hear him speak, he brings the style and slang. He just sort of brings that along, and it just makes, like, that's why Cuban Links was such a classic album. His presence on there just sort of, he supported him without overshadowing Raekwon, and I thought that's what made that album so classic. Method Man, as I mentioned earlier, his energy level is just like, you know, all over the place. I remember he's almost like a big kid who really walks in the room and everyone turns and gives him the attention, and he just brings that energy to the room. Deck is probably one of the most underrated lyricists, but he's amazing. I'm talking about, you know, we go back to 8th grade too, and just to see that he has so much knowledge that probably would have never been exposed any other way but through rap music. Jizza, obviously, he's there. He's very quiet. He's almost like shy in a sense, but he sort of represents, you know, those thinkers that sit back, and because these guys, all they do is sit and play chess all day. And so they develop this other layer of intelligence that's way beyond your average person. And so Jizza sort of represents that. So you think, if you go through his catalog and see all of the rhymes he's written, I don't think anything is on there that just frivolous rhyme. I mean, everything means something. You God sort of represents this strong person in the background. You can hear about his rhyming style. And also he has sort of, I mean, obviously, you know, the background. These guys, you know, had strong street background, all of them. So, you know, whatever they have on record, there's stuff to back it. Raekwon, basically, he's this guy. What I like about him is this. And we were in Vegas doing a show one time, and it was something amazing that I saw him do. And he came out. I saw him interact with a fan, and that was actually one of the realest that I've ever seen an artist interact with a person. You know, I guess the girl was waiting downstairs to take a picture or whatever, and they were really tired and needed to go up. And he was like, you know what? You know, if you've been here that long waiting for me, let the elevator go up. I'll come back on. I take the picture with him, and I just saw how they interacted. So he's raw. He's almost brutally honest. And ODB, of course, this film focuses on him the most because I was able to see the two sides. I saw Rusty Jones and I saw ODB, and these guys are like opposite ends of the spectrum. When fame hit, somewhere along the way, in his mind, it was, okay, get the money to feed the family and make sure everything is okay. Along the way, ODB sort of overcame Rusty Jones. The alter ego ended up taking over. So the alter ego was able to have money to provide for the family because they struggled along the way. However, ODB and the characters of ODB sort of pushed the family away. So the very same thing he was trying to save ended up being pushed away even more. And that's sort of the tragedy about the ODB story, is the fact that here's this guy who, when you hear his wife and family talk about what he set out to do, and he had his family demons, and he was trying to sort of isolate his family from, his new family from them. But it was but the only thing that could save them is him becoming this guy and bringing in his rewards to sort of better their lives. But in the process of doing that, he ends up losing them. When I met him, he was clean. He was happy to be out of jail. He had put on some weight. The family was there with him, so he just seemed very happy to be with the family again. You understand? And as time went on, things got shifted around, and I have a feeling that, that all put the pressure on him to sort of try to go back into ODB. He ended up getting pulled back into that world again because the pressure was mounting on him. I could sense it at his dinner. The last time I saw him alive, I could sense the pressure because everybody was there. Okay, you need to do this, your clothing line is there, your new album needs to be recorded in X amount of weeks. You got to go in the studio with this guy. Here's a remix. So you saw all of those things sort of, you know, well, give me a minute. Let me just relax. Let me enjoy, you know, breathing fresh, clean air, you know. Reality kicked in. It's like, wow, you know, and guess what? A key member of the group is gone, and that's the case that it is now. So the tragedy is that I don't think they really got a chance to say their final goodbyes because there was still sort of friction between the groups, especially the night that he died. They were all supposed to perform together, and he didn't show up. So, oh, this guy's doing it again, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if they're fully embraced the fact, you know, because there's a part of them, so it's like, okay, well, saying, okay, well, this part of my body is dead, you know what I'm saying, but I'm still here. So it's sort of going through the, I would say, denial. They were able to prove that you could be original, meaning raw, back to the essence of hip hop, and still be commercial. These guys sold 5 million copies of a double CD, so that's, you know what I'm saying? That's amazing. I mean, now, an average rap artist now can even sell like 1 million copies, and that's 2 million, and that's it. But at that peak, they sold 5 million copies. That was like $25 back then, is what they sold it for. And just being able to go out and see them perform on tour and be there and see them perform in front of, you know, tens of thousands. And you got these people adoring fans, and then people got tattoos on their bodies, or can't even speak English, but yet they understand it, you know what I'm saying? So I think the music, it was more of the attitude and the music that they presented, and I thought that was what made the group sort of stand out.
The Wu Tang Clan show consists of all nationalities. It ain't just a black thing, it ain't just a white thing. You see people come from all over the place just to catch a glimpse of the clan. Especially a clan show, not an individual show, a clan show. You see all types of people, and it gets crazy in there. Like, they know our lyrics before we even spit them out.
Wu-Tang sort of benefited from keeping all of the original essence of hip-hop, but yet benefiting from the commercialism as it was at that time, because you were doing super concerts, they had video games, they scored movies, music for movies, they were able to take advantage of being in movies, and just on the overall, they were able to make the transition easily because they're artists, they have a fan base, and as you and myself probably came to understand that it's all about carrying your fans with you. And they may not be selling records or getting video airplay as they were back then, but if you go to the shows, I mean, you would never even think that anything ended. It's natural human behavior. I mean, people have, you have friends, and then you guys go your separate ways in there. So I always thought it was only unique with the group, but that's where everybody, they're real human beings. And with human beings come those emotions, jealousy, sort of wanting to grow and expand, all these different things. Wu Tang Clan's legacy will be branded as, okay, everything that you expect not to happen, they proved that it could happen. Here's some guys that were all probably not, if they were not because of hip hop music, probably dead or in jail, but they were able to survive growing up in New York during that time period. They were able to survive and provide for their kids. Their kids are in private schools and such now. They were able to travel the world, and they were able to lend their talents, and their talents were embraced by people all over the world. I mean, it proved everyone wrong because they were able to succeed. and they succeeded with all odds against them. And that's what is amazing, and I was able to see it happening. These guys got dirty t-shirts and saying, we're gonna do it, and then all of a sudden they did it. And there's nothing better than believing in yourself and then all of a sudden seeing it happen. For me, this film is one of many examples of what hip-hop as a whole needs to do, is to kind of revisit itself every now and then, or else it's gonna always die off, because if you don't know your past, you will never know your future.